Winter meat. I just wonder if it's, is it possible that, so this one is mono, this one is stereo?
Yeah.
Blue. I'm just wondering, can we try this station, this channel?
Yeah, see what happens there.
Try it. That's the blue one. It's worked already. Oh, yeah, the blue worked already. Yes. You know, that's
No. Yeah, see what happens there. Alrighty. There it is. I gotta fix that camera now. Did you get it working?
No.
Oh.
Testing, 1, 2, testing. Here, let's try this. Testing, 1, 2, testing. But if you put the black one in there, it works, right? Yes. Yeah. Why is that channel? Is that channel just not on? Yeah, that channel is just not on. Move the speaker volume all the way down or press the monitor mute button. Pick one of the mics, switch it on, hold it a few inches and speak loudly on your mixer. Turn off the
I can
gain.
text Milo and see if he has any ideas.
Yeah, I would say so. It's getting close. Speak loudly. We'll now turn up the channel volume until you see the red lights. Repeat step 3 through 5 for each of the microphones. Pick up one of the mics, switch it on, hold it a few inches. Testing until you see the peak light just above the channel volume knob, flash red, then back off the gain until the light no longer flashes, which we've done. Make sure the mixer is plugged into the laptop in OBS. Hold on.
See something? All right. Good. We didn't even have to send them.
But the mute is for channel 1 and 2.
So that was it.
Two.
Oh my God, that button was pushed down. Oh my God, that's all it was. You're a genius. Thank you. I know, it's like they should work.
All right, this one goes. That's a new one on me. I didn't.
Well, that's a new one on me too. I hadn't even
There's a
thought of
mute
it.
that is for only those 2 channels.
Just these 2 channels.
Just those 2 channels.
And that's why the blue one worked.
Can we adjust the peak?
Yeah, let's go ahead, just the peak now, because that wasn't that high before.
So,
It's time.
Welcome, everyone. Sergeant Savio, you know, sometimes known by Kevin, but don't call him that. Call me that. Call him that. Okay. You've been a dentist since I was a young little buck. So, blessing to have that with a blessing.
Ewameva ito dinam petanam upakapati citam pacitam tumami ipameva samvichatu sabe purantu samgapa janto panaraso yatha manicho tiraso yatha Vina sadu mate pavarvantarayo sakiti kayu kopama Abhivadana sili sanicham mutta pachayino jataro dhamma vadanti ayuvanno sukhan palang ayuto palato tiro vanajo patipanato sukha sadhata metavi sukham so adhikashati Ayuntatawa malam sukam shabati manato Tigayuya sawa hoti akayatu papachati Bhavantu sapamankalam rakantu sabha devata Sabha buddhan bhavena sada soti bhavantu te Bhavatu sapamankalam rakantu sabha devata Sabha Dhamma Nubhavena Sada Soti Bhavantu Te Bhavatu Sabha Mangalam Rakantu Sabha Devata Sava Sanghan Bhavena Sada Soti Bhavantu Te.
Usually there's one tone deaf monk in every monastery. Ajahn Sadhguru and I lived in a monastery with one. Sort of, might have been me, I'm not sure.
Let's turn the gain knob until you see the peak. One, two, three, one, two, three. That's the black one until you see the peak. Until the light is no longer flashing. Now turn the candle volume until you see the red light flashing. Don't turn the volume down until you only see the hey, how are you?
All right, let me bring this over here and fix this tank.
Yeah, although that's funny that that one's so much higher You're so close to it. I think you're right. Yeah, I think you might be right. That's the move. So where's the gain on the move? That's a good question. I'm not sure. Because I don't see it. Okay, maybe that's why seems right. It's only so I see that the gain is on look. Yeah. Did Mike Jagger? So black one goes to the shrine. Okay. Black one goes to the shrine. So you are red. Is that right? Who's supposed to be asking for the Dhamma talk?
I think that Juanita was working. So, hey, she is good.
We're all good?
So we're bringing all this equipment to Fauntleroy. You probably don't know the new plan. We're bringing everything to Fauntleroy.
Really?
Because Aya's not going to be there. She's not well. And so we need to bring the TV, we need to bring everything. It's all going to be. Brittany wants to, she'll lead it, or Brianna rather, will lead it. And I'll leave. I have to leave at 3 o'clock if I have all the equipment and everything. I'd prefer to, I mean, if she's not going to be there, it's not that special for me to stick around until 5:30. So we need to pack up everything when I leave at 3. There's going to be a break at that point.
All right.
So I don't know what, I don't think we can bring it back here.
No.
I think, so so we need to find out who's going to be there, who has a car, and who's willing to do that, to help out. And I can put some in my car and then maybe one other car. I know you don't have a car, so you can't put the TV on the back.
I barely can hold my own equipment.
I know, it's pouring out there. Yeah, I feel for you.
But I can,
If you think, yeah, you have the time this afternoon. It'll be nice and meditative. I think Ajahn Nisargo's gonna do a talk from Zoom for the first hour, kind of lead and meditate. I don't know what to do. All right. And Brianna and somebody named Joan, I don't know, they're gonna kind of, I was there a couple weeks ago to look at the setup.
Yeah.
And then so you have that microphone. Now we're not gonna need it, but that's good to know about. Yeah, we should probably just get, some kind of portable. I mean, the portable box that we used when I don't know if you heard the day the cities with them, and it was, community stories, and the mic works well for everybody. So that's another option.
Easier.
But yeah, to have a quarter so you can plug into that is helpful too. Thank you. Okay.
Ajahn Nisargo's task.
Yeah, I know. I have a couple of these at
Always,
home.
I'm aware. We bring a TV so people will see this, that makes sense.
Yeah.
We need to bring all this.
And I'm on the mode. Yeah, the whole thing. Because because how do we get the sound? I don't think about that. I don't know. I don't know if there's no. Because how will we hear the sound if we don't have the laptop? I mean, it is Zoom, but but we'd be hearing TV sound, I guess. There'll be people there. I don't know how many people. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, we really have time. Wow, is it time already? Wow, I love it when we fix things at the last meeting. Through the mics didn't work. And it was because this was pushing. Who's driving today? Okay. Okay, I'll sit here. Okay, Mary is the Zoom host today, so let these people in.
We already did that. But you would do it this month. Discreetly behind me, I am. So this is Ajahn Sagar, for those who haven't known. He was my monastic mentor. The first monk I met at Majjhima, although there was a dog running away from him at that time because there's a bunch of dogs in Majjhima, and Ajahn Sagar kept him in line. It was helpful. He also kept us novices in line and helped me through some of the hardest times of my young little monastic career. And took me Tudong. First Tudong off the island, and he's also on our board for Guardians Monastic Organization. And in return, I got to take him trick-or-treating yesterday.
I never work on one of these.
It's one thing I really want to experience, which is Halloween in the U.S. So Glenn took us to the haunted alleyway, and we walked through inside Teletubbies, 3 hot dogs, pizza, and a lot of like. It's good. We didn't take any candy though. It's a real honor to have you on there. And just, yeah, he was one of the assistants for Longhorn Run, and I started numerous monasteries. He's been one of my deep guides, so we're just really blessed to have him for about 2 days. So we get him for the rest of today, and yeah, so very grateful. So we have announcements first with Bonnie and Hostage. I think the mic will be good though, so people online can hear. Where's our mic?
People online are having trouble hearing. We have a problem with that, so we're working on it.
So we need a mic for everybody as well.
Yeah. What the heck?
I'll stand up. I have a few and I'll make them brief. Saturday manager. We are looking for someone to volunteer to be a Saturday manager. It's with the team.
I don't know what's going on.
Find me afterwards. We're also looking for a photographer to join the team that we have. We are having a used book exchange next week. So bring in your used Dhamma books. It's only going to be used books. If they're not picked up, you will be responsible for taking your books home with you because we can't store them. Next week, there will also be the beginning of a food drive. There'll be a container and a sign up, and it'll be somewhere in the gym. Please bring in anything that's non-perishable. I'll be leading it. If there's anyone who wants to help with that, that would be great. But whatever we collect, I work at a local food bank, I'll bring it right to that food bank. Given the tenor of our times now, I think that's a really wonderful thing to do. Last but not least, St. Mark's gives us this wonderful space. There's a few times we can't be in Skinner. They have been very accommodating in giving us another place to meet. So there's a donation box on the back table. Please be generous today. They have been so, so kind to us. And I think that's it.
So some of you may know that there's some uncertainty right now around whether or not people on SNAP or EBT or food stamps are going to receive food assistance in the coming months or a month. Clear Mountain community is big, and that may include some of us. So some of us have the means to help, and our community is pretty solid and kind. I felt inspired to create a system to enable people to connect. It's a grocery buddy system, so I'm hoping to pair Donna Davis with people to support with groceries. If you're interested about how you're going to eat in this coming month, please come find me, or you can write your name in this purple notebook that will be, where can I put it? On the welcome desk. And then to add on to that, I'm also considering hosting a regular meal prep Sundays meeting at my house, where we'll be making large batches of prepped food to take home. And those who are able can bring ingredients, and those who are not can come and help cook. So I just wanted to gauge interest with that second part. So please let me know. Please come and talk to me if that's something that appeals. And also if you're available to be a grocery buddy for somebody.
I think Steve has something in the back.
Just to heads up that Eastside Insight is offering a day-long 4 foundations of mindfulness on Saturday in Berkeley, but also online. So if you're interested, come to me. I got a flyer and also on the SIMS website, the day-long is mentioned there. So it's helpful.
Telling you is never would eat without first having given. Even if it was their last mouthful, they would not eat without having given if there was someone to give to. But because beings do not know as I know the fruits of giving, they eat without having given, and stinginess overcomes their minds. kind of whenever someone needs beautiful kind of in ways, we just want to encourage it and really rejoice in it. So yeah, please consider bringing food for those in need. Consider talking to Hasa Chipto if you are interested in helping prepare food or need it. And Hasa, maybe you'll post something on WhatsApp and Discord, yes, so you can contact me there too. Yeah, just maybe 3 big sadhus for those 2 initiatives. Sadhu. Also, sadhu. So the reason we're sadhuing, many of you know that Brianna had this back from the role she's looking for a home numerous last weeks. We and sat her out in addition to trick or treating. Yesterday on a day-long field trip as well to visit property, and Alex has stepped into the role on behalf to replace Brianna. So just 3 big sadhus for Alex. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. You, Alex. That Alex moved all the way from the East Coast to be in our community, so it's really beautiful to see these sort of aspirations gathering. I am Nagagoni. Some of you will know she's holding a afternoon retreat at Fauntleroy Church in West Seattle. If you haven't heard about that, it's on Pariana's website, which is parianavihara.org. And I is feeling ill today. So what we're going to be doing, there still will be opening that space up at 1:30 p.m. There will be monastics there holding the space, but I will be zooming in via our wonderful AV crew and the big screen TV, but it'll be a really precious opportunity to practice, just encouraging people to still go. And I will be like extra large in many senses, so it's still worth going. I just want to encourage that. I think that's it. Okay. Oh, one final thing. Who here was a bit jarred by how I was bringing up the white shirt thing a few weeks ago? You actually don't have to raise your hand, but a few people I think were. Apologies. So we just introduced this Upasaka form. Basically, it just means one who sits near, and it's just a term for someone with some faith in the Triple Gem who's taken refuge. We put together just a set of practices which people can decide to take on, like making a shrine, having a daily meditation practice. And we posted that link on the website under visitors and practitioners. One of those ancient practices is just people in Thailand and Sri Lanka sometimes wear white shirts to the monastery, just as a sign of, a certain amount of, it makes you be extra careful with eating food because you spill really easily. But it also is a sign of just purity of intention. But I think how it, with the echoes in Western culture of hierarchy, of religion, of ins and outs, which we want to avoid completely, I think it kind of landed that way for some people, and I really apologize. It's an ancient kind of form that some people just choose to wear white occasionally in Buddhist spaces, but it's not, no pressure from the monks at all. I think there's a mix of these perceptions in the West, and honestly, we just want this to be a place where people feel they can come and feel completely safe and welcome and no pressure to do anything like that. But it's just one of the 12 kind of practices which we put out there for people interested. That's all. So hope that helped a bit. If you have any questions, feel free to talk to me. Yeah, we just wanted to put that out there as well. Okay, now I'm done. So let's chant together. If you're on Zoom or YouTube, you can find the chanting book PDF in a link in the YouTube description or Zoom. And we'll just chant very simply the true and false refuges on page 69. Vahumve saranam yanti avatani vanani cha Aramurudachandani Mansamayatajitam. Too many refuges they go, to mountain slopes and forest glades, to parkland shrines and sacred sites. People overcome by fear. Netam ko saranam kevam, netam saranam uttamam, netam saranam bhagava sabaduga pamuchati. Such a refuge is not secure, such a refuge is not supreme, such a refuge does not bring complete release from suffering. Yo cha buddham cha dhammam cha sangham cha saranam gato chatari ariyasa chani samlabhanyaya pasati. Whoever goes to refuge in the triple gem sees with right discernment the Four Noble Truths. Dukam dukkha samudaya ariyan shatantikam. Oh, dukkha sachatikam. Ariyan shatantikam magam dukku samadhamina. Suffering and its origin, and that which lies beyond, the noble eightfold path that leads the way to suffering's end. Etam ko saranam evam, etam saranam uttamam, etam saranam agama sabaduka pamuchati. Such a refuge is secure, such a refuge is supreme, such a refuge truly brings complete release from all suffering. Say the refuges and precepts until next Saturday when I'm going to listen for a particular reason. So, settle in, some meditation and we'll start. Take a comfortable seat. Start by checking in with your body. Noticing it's here. There's any tension, tightness there. Shoulders, jaw. Loosen. Soften those areas. See, it's usually helpful to set the mind up, some sort of intention, which way we steer our practice. Simple as something like just 20 minutes. Issues and concerns that I have in my life, just put them down. Develop something in particular, maybe even let go, something specific. Just take a few moments to set the mind up in the right way by setting motivation and intention for the practice.
start to gently work on achieve some sort of goal rather than getting right kind of conditions for it. Do those things that are within our capabilities. Towards that intention. Times might be pulled away, distracted, taken away from this intention that you set up. notice a bit off track. Just turn your mind back. Set up ourselves.
Hi, if anybody want to request the Dhamma talk, please turn on the page.
Sambuddhassa Buddham Dhammam Sangham Namassami Ito Parang Sakacang Dhammo Sotapoti. It's been incredibly encouraging to see how communities grown so much in that time. It's what that's putting in so much effort to grow this community. It's nice to see some old faces. If I forget your name, just say your name to me again. I just tend to forget names like everybody does. But it's also really nice to see some new people as well. It's such an encouraging thing to see. It's like, as Nisarbo said, he showed up at Mahjong like many years ago, and like most people that come through the door, it's like, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with this guy. He might stay, he might not. He showed up. I want to ordain, but I'm gonna go on holiday to Sri Lanka first. So I thought, he's gone. He's never coming back. But he showed back up. He came back again, and it was he obviously took the robes on, and many years we were together in Thailand, and holding his hand through a few things, but also him offering a lot of support to me, and you could see right from the start. It's like, okay, he's got something here. There's something special here, and it's really encouraging to see somebody ordain and go through and make something of themselves and make this kind of community that is made here. If you're like me, you just sort of want to just basically hide away as much as possible. But Nisarbo has definitely come out of the community and pulled a lot of people together. So it's really encouraging to see. And it's also nice that he's willing to go, hey, Nisarbo wants to go and see Halloween. So I'm going to go and take him to see Halloween. Because in Australia, we don't have Halloween. We have the decorations a little bit, but we don't, nobody does the trick-or-treating. So for my whole life, I'm like, I don't get this Halloween thing, but now I get it. I get it a little bit. Oh, it's cool, there's kids around. Look at the slide. It's great. So I think it was nice to be able to do that, but then also to see how much the community is growing here as well. So anybody that's kind of listened to me before, I prefer just to kind of talk to people. So if during the talk, just call out to me. It's much easier. It's much easier for me. I guess I kind of wanted to maybe talk about something that's been on my mind a little bit more in the last few weeks. And look, I think the nice way to kind of set this up is one thing that I've been impressed about by Clear Mountain is the amount of different teachers that come through here. And Ms. Bongovilla interviewed many different people, many different Dhamma teachers within the Dhamma tradition, you know, even outside the tradition, talking to them and really trying to get some of the insights about from the Dhamma in that. And so, like this is one. It's really encouraging to see like a plurality of teachers. But it also brings up a question: well, what is a Dhamma teacher? What actually constitutes a Dhamma teacher? Does anybody have any ideas? What's a quality that a Dhamma teacher might have?
Clarity.
Sorry?
Clarity.
So clarity in the way of they can explain things with clarity?
Yes, in the way they can just be in the moment.
So yeah, so they have a kind of presence and they maybe have a kind of clarity as well, yeah, for the teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, quality of kindness.
Say they're in some way able to empathize, be compassionate with people. Yeah, yeah.
A maturely embodied commitment to not harming.
Yeah. So a kind of living example in some kind of way, a living example of not harming, of being gentle and being kind in one's actions and speech. Yeah. Yeah.
Love of the Dhamma.
Love of the Dhamma. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Mindfulness, so somebody that has kind of presence, they have kind of, they're mindful in all things they do. I don't know if we can be considered Dhamma teachers then. There's plenty of times I'm not mindful, so yeah. Yeah, how's that?
Wisdom and compassion.
Wisdom and compassion, yeah. And you as well?
Holding space.
Being able to hold space, being able to sort of, I don't understand what that actually means to tell you. This is an American thing. What is it? I don't know.
Holding space for others.
Okay, nice. So basically, being able to see that everyone's like a part of the group or something, or being able to emphasize with people and listening in some kind. Is that what it is?
It could be lots of different things. But holding space meaning like holding space for the teachings and all things.
Yep.
And just being with that.
Nice, very good. Cool. I love something. I learned about trick-or-treating and I learned about holding space. Humor. That's yeah. Some don't have it, and that's fine as well. Yeah.
Sincerity.
Integrity. Yeah.
The ability to know when not to speak.
Yeah, that's an important one. So. Stop or practice, yeah, nice. So look, there's so many different qualities we can think of there that what actually makes a good Dhamma teacher, and everybody has probably something a little bit different. But I have a kind of list here. It's like, well, as you said at the start, like clarity, being able to be accurate with different things, being able to guide people, So in some way, that is a kind of holding space in some way, being able to sort of work with the people that are around in some way. Being able to engage in a dialogue, being able to be friendly and be kind in this kind of way and be empathetic. Somebody that's accessible as well. It's one thing to have a teacher, but it's like, well, if you can't access them in any kind of way, well, they're not really a teacher. Somebody that can give encouragement, somebody that can give inspiration in some way. And these two are quite good at those things. And also, I can't remember who it was, but somebody said an embodied living example of the teachings. And so this is just a kind of long way of me getting to this point. Is what I actually wanted to talk about today is a lot of people are talking a lot about LLMs and AI, and a lot of people are worried about, is it going to take people's jobs and all these kinds of things. So the question I'm asking is it going to take my Oh, maybe. Well, let's see. Maybe yes. No. Let's think about it. So, if it can be a Dhamma teacher, can it actually then facilitate insight and wisdom? So, lot of sources together. Accuracy, they can be, you know, they can hallucinate obviously, but they can be very, very accurate. If you ask me a question about suttas, I'm probably going to forget, and I do it in this way. You can offer guidance that if you have questions, they can answer. If it can, can it actually facilitate some kind of wisdom and insight? And I just want to point out before I go too far with this talk, I'm really indebted to somebody called Chris Craig at the University of Auckland. We were at a conference a couple of months ago, and he started to speak about some of these topics, and we just got together and started thinking a little bit more about it and writing about it. So I'm very, very indebted to a lot of his thought on this. So when I said, can AI be a Dhamma teacher, there was a hard no. There was a hard no there. And that's understandable. It's totally understandable. And because everybody has their own assumptions about this. Everybody has their own ideas, their own thoughts about what it actually could be. And so I think the best way to, instead of just having a knee-jerk reaction to it, it's like, well, what can it do? Let's actually have a look at what this thing can do. So, in the spirit of that, I basically have been playing around with ChatGPT 5 and sort of asking some questions, and this will just give you an indication of where things are at the moment and what they can do. And so I basically put in an input of take on the role of an AI Buddhist master and talking to a human student on how they might be able to overcome their struggle in trying to achieve the jhanas. So you can just sort of think of this, okay, the AI Buddhist master, student, you come with frustration. Why can I not enter jhana? Let's examine together, not with judgment, but with precision. First, tell me, when you sit, what happens to your mind in the first 5 minutes? Student, my thoughts jump around. I try to follow my breath, but then I'm thinking about work or other problems. AI, good. You have already identified vichaka vichara, the placing of thoughts and its wandering. This isn't a failure. This is a data pointation. In jhana training, I'm not trying to suppress violently, but intention to prefer the breath of all life. Here is your first principle. If the mind wanders, it means the breath is not yet the most attractive thing in your awareness. Your task is to not crush distraction, but to breath. Notice its texture, temperature, rhythm until the restless and impatient. Notice the start, middle, and the end of the breath. Exhale gently. Notice the start, middle, and end of the out-breath. After each cycle, mentally say, here, this anchors without tension. Do not demand absorption. The demand itself is a hindrance. It's chandaraga, craving for attainment. Sometimes I just feel dull, this is the student, like I'm about to fall asleep, the AI master. Dullness, tinamitta, is the opposite diagnostic. It's not enough energy in the system. Here's your parameter for adjustment. Before sitting, recall a moment of joy or gratitude. Sit upright, let the breath be slightly deeper. Imagine you are greeting each breath as an honored guest. This will lift the energy without losing calm. So student now, becoming impatient. So when does the jhana actually happen? Master, the jhana emerges when the 5 hindrances are sufficiently weakened and the mind rests effortlessly on one object of joy, with joy and ease. You will notice the breath feels almost self-sustaining. Body boundaries fade. joy, piti, and ease, sukha, fill the mind like warm light. But remember, jhana is caught, it's not chased. If you aim at it directly, it slips. If you cultivate the causes, it arrives by itself, like sleep comes to a tired child. Student, so should I just keep adjusting the balance between energy and calm? AI Master, yes, exactly. It's like tuning a stringed instrument. Too tight, it snaps. Too loose, it won't play. The middle tension, sustained attention, relaxed joy. This is your gateway. And here is your final reminder. Meditation is not about conquering the mind. It's about befriending it so deeply that it wants to stay in stillness with you. I mean, like, it's pretty good. I just guided meditation, and that was like probably better in so many kinds of ways. So we can see, look, it can kind of act as a teacher in this kind of way. And okay, this is a like low-hanging fruit. Okay, yeah, okay, let's thinking about developing meditation. You can obviously ask more deep questions about, so say for example, I have another one. Do you want to hear another one quickly? Just quickly? Okay, cool. Okay, so this is okay, so we can ask these like basic questions. It's like, well, but now, okay, we can ask an unembodied system, what does Nibbana feel like? What does Nibbana feel like? So this is where it gets good. And so yeah, with this one, I set it up so it's like a three-way dialogue with an AI system, an arahant, and just a student. So it's having a kind of dialogue between itself. And so yeah, asking this question, what does Nibbana feel like? And so student, Venerable Sir, I understand Nibbana is the end of craving, but what does it feel like? Surely it must feel like something. The Arahant, you ask what the taste of sugar is, but you have never tasted sweetness. I can say it's not sour, it's not bitter, it's not salty, yet the taste itself cannot be put into words. The AI, this matches a category in philosophy called ineffable experience, phenomena that cannot be fully represented in language because they are not composed of discernible parts. Student, but Arahant, if you can't describe it, how do you know it's real? Arahant, would you doubt the coolness of shade because no one could measure it for you in words? You know when the heat is gone. In the same way, the fever of craving ceases. What remains is peace, unshaken. AI, let me interject. I can catalog the descriptions from Buddhist texts, deathlessness, unconditioned, peace beyond measure. But these are negative and comparative terms. They define Nibbana by what it is not, rather than by what it is. So the student, now, so why all the negatives? Why can't you just say, it feels happy, it feels blissful? The Arahant, because happy and blissful are feelings tied to conditions. They arise and they pass. Nibbana is beyond arising and passing. Beyond the wheel of gain and loss, words like happy mislead, for they make you cling to an image. AI. So there's a logical point. If Nibbana is a cessation of all conditioned states, then any attempt to describe its feeling would reintroduce a conditioned reference point. Student, then how can I possibly aspire to it if I don't know what it's like? Arahant, you do not aspire by imagining the goal. You aspire by ending the cause of suffering here and now. When the thorn is removed, relief is known without needing a picture of it beforehand. AI, this is akin to debugging a code. You don't imagine the exact state of the program when all bugs are gone. You just remove each bug until the errors stop. The final state is known directly once it's reached. Student, so Arahant, you're saying the feeling of Nibbana is not like any other feeling, but you still experience consciousness after awakening? Arahant, yes. There is seeing, hearing, touching, thinking, but without clinging, without the burden of me and mine. Like a clear sky after clouds have gone, it's spacious, bright, and free. Student, so AI, if you had to simulate that in words I could hold on to, what would you say? AI, I would say, imagine a mind that receives all inputs without distortion, responds without compulsion, and rests without needing anything to be different. That's a functional approximation of what the Arahant describes. Student, an Arahant, would you agree? The Arahant finally smiles. The words are skillful, but the taste of sweetness is not in the description. If you wish to know, you must taste yourself. I mean, like, these are pretty good. Like, so basically, that's all the talk I'm giving today. I'm just going to read off this scene. So this is more just to. So what does everyone think so far? Yeah. Yeah, okay. I can repeat. I can actually just repeat for the online audience. That might be a bit easier. Yeah, for sure. Yep. Mm. Mm. Yep. 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 Yeah. Yeah. So there's also certain words in there that are like computer lingo, like
Yeah.
data
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and algorithm.
Yeah.
And when I hear those, it just I immediately sort of don't like it.
Yeah. 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 So the kind of skillful, but there isn't any kind of embodiment there. There isn't any kind of realness to the teaching, and in some way it becomes kind of mathematical or like programmy based, and maybe that that maybe doesn't resonate with you in some way. Anybody else have a thought? Just a quick thought here. Yep.
New to this group.
Yep.
This was amazingly good for me.
Yeah.
I'm always dabbling and kind of point of my practice at sort of beginning again.
Yep.
And it's kind of, there was no, I wasn't as judgmental because I was like, I've heard great teachers, you guys
Yeah.
seem excellent, but there was no stylization, there was no,
Yep.
it wasn't overly serious. And the way you
Yeah.
read it was just, colloquial.
Mm.
I thought the app was being coy when it used the computer lingo.
Yeah.
And I got the reminder back to basics again.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I'm back. And
Yeah,
I
nice.
didn't feel judgment. I just felt like, that's what I need, like a kick in
Nice.
the butt.
Nice. Yeah.
Thanks.
Nice. Well, yeah. So the reflection is something along the lines of, well, actually, there is something that you resonate with that, and there's a kind of resonation there. So, and in some way, it also sort of sounds like there's a bit of personality. There's a bit of personality, maybe, that you can even resonate with in that kind of way. Yeah. Nice. Nice.
Excuse me, I need to interject real quick. We are going to pass the mic around for people that are online.
Yep.
Sorry, I know you like the spontaneous.
Yeah, okay,
but
okay.
Just for people to hear online.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. When I think about this, I mean, some people have mentioned experience and embodied presence, but I also think of what I value in a teacher is being able to know my practice.
Yep.
And pull from intuitive wisdom. Yep. In the moment, so that I can ask the same question that somebody else might ask, and we get two different answers.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's more relational.
Yeah. So there's kind of one can like build a relationship with somebody and know a little bit more about it. I will just kind of move on a little bit because there's points I'm actually going to make about this kind of stuff as well. So look, we can see in some way it can act as a Dhamma teacher in some way. It really can offer very profound kind of guidance about this. And so we can see, well, in some way it might do things like clarify different concepts. It might be able to explain things in a lot of detail. It can simulate different styles of teachers. As you said, there's a kind of personality there. And even as you were saying, it's like, well, I want to intuit something. And in some way it seems like it can kind of get at something that like speaks to people's hearts in some kind of way. It can do different styles. If you want something in the style of a Zen master or an Abhidhamma scholar, it can do those kinds of things. It's always available. It's always available for very personalized answers. So you said you want somebody that is intuitive. It's like you can like program this thing to like actually give you really good answers about yourself, train it to know things about yourself. So it can in some way do that. And it can. So there are advantages here. There's possible things that could come out of it. It could act as in the kind of preparatory stages. When we're trying to learn about a concept, when we're trying to learn about things in a very kind of easily conceptual way, it could be like a really good tool for something like this. It can provide very, very diverse perspectives. It can sort of amalgamate a lot of different styles of meditation. Look, I know about Theravada, I know some other stuff, but I can't amalgamate all the diverse styles that are out there. So clearly it can act as a teacher in some ways. But now we have to now get to this question now. Like, so we can see, well, maybe, yeah, it can maybe act as a teacher, but can it actually facilitate insight? Can it actually facilitate some kind of wisdom and understanding? And so if we think about what understanding is or wisdom is from like a Buddhist, from this Buddhist context, for me, myself, I see it in there's two domains of what wisdom is or what understanding is. The first, and let's call the first A, the first is a phenomenological state. So there is an actual state of experience of what it's like of something. There's a direct seeing of impermanence, suffering, and not self. There's a kind of like experiential element to that. So the first one, the A, it needs a phenomenological state. But also then the next condition for wisdom is like B, is actually understanding a philosophical framework. One can have very deep experiences and very epiphanetic, very profound kind of insights, experiences, but maybe they don't frame them in the Buddhist way. You can have plenty of people that have all these very deep and profound states, but maybe they don't frame it in the Buddhist way. So you actually have to have a philosophical framework, a conceptual framework behind that. Things like right view, dependent origination, the Four Noble Truths. So this kind of understanding, this part of wisdom, this kind of actually understanding things, it requires like three different conditions. And the first condition is that it actually requires some, on the practitioners, on the individuals themselves, it requires some kind of struggle. It requires engaging with something. It requires actually being, rolling your sleeves up, getting in, doing the practice. There's some kind of struggle there. There's something there where, and you can even think about it in terms of yoniso manasikara. I need to wisely reflect on things. I need to really kind of wrestle with some of these ideas. The second condition that it needs is some sort of sustained meditation practice. You need to have you actually do need some sort of practice there. And the third condition we need for wisdom is, one, we actually need the information. We need the information, we need dialogue, we need bouncing things off kalyana mittas. So we need these kind of three different conditions. We need this kind of struggle, we need a practice, but then we also need the information and the people around us. And so, at least for me, here's where I see the difficulty with LLMs and AI. I think they can fulfill one of these conditions, but I don't think it can fulfill all of them. I think it can fulfill the condition of like dialogue with a kalyana mitta. This condition of being able to actually give the information in this way. And it can only really, when we think about the A and B condition for wisdom, it only really does B, understanding the philosophical framework. It doesn't have the and support dialogue, two-way conversation. It can bring concepts. A lot of questions to. This is something that can offer in some way, can clarify things for you, just kind of normal. Help with that. And so I think in some way, AIs and large language models, they can help you prepare the ground. They can help you, give you some kind of understanding. So understanding in one respect, but maybe understanding in the full respects? Yeah, well, let's see. So why AI can't really fulfill these other two conditions of a perceptual struggle. They can't fulfill this, this is something that we have to engage with ourselves. This is something that we have to take on within ourselves. We have to work with, we have to struggle with. So the kind of, and I was talking to Sarah about this yesterday, it's like the inner shock of seeing no self. It's one thing to conceptually be able to explain this thing, and one thing to talk about it, but it's a whole other thing to actually experience it. It's confusing when the thing happens. It can be destabilizing. It can be joyous. It can be insightful. This is not really something that large language models can help us facilitate. This AI model has never undergone those kinds of struggles. It has never undergone that kind of phenomenological insight in that way. Never undergone that, so it doesn't really actually understand it in that sense. So, because AI has no real attachment to self-views that need to be challenged. It never had a self there to begin with. We do. Unfortunately, we all do. We're all Buddhists. There is no self and whatever. You all do. You all have a self. You all have a self. You're sitting with it right now. You're trying to work against it, but you have the thing. So, let's just put that on the table. So the AIs and large language models, they don't have these things that need to be challenged. They've never challenged it before. They've never actually experienced this thing. So, can we really sort of say? There's no kind of, and obviously no sustained meditation practice. These AI systems, at least at the moment, maybe if you're starting to think about robotics, they don't really have too many sensory inputs. Maybe self-driving cars do to some extent. Sorry, I'm going to go off on a tangent. But maybe there isn't the kind of sensory phenomenological inputs that we actually have as humans. Human phenomenology is based a lot around the senses that we have. So there's limitations there. And again, I have to thank Chris Craglio here, because we thought about these in a lot of detail, and we've been working through a lot of these ideas. So there are limitations to using AI as a Dhamma teacher and as a Dhamma instructor. The first one is something that Chris calls simulated understanding. So this is something where, AI can give really good conceptual answers to things, but it's never really seen the truth for itself. So it's a simulated understanding. It's a simulated understanding of something. And also, there's the problem there as well. So the AI, the large language model, hasn't seen this thing, but also the student hasn't seen it either. The person asking the question hasn't seen it, the AI hasn't seen it. So neither of them have seen this thing. So this is where the kind of embodied teacher, this is actually where this comes in, incredibly important. Actually, somebody that has a phenomenological system that has experienced something like this. So it can bring about a kind of simulated understanding. And we think one of the biggest problems with it is what it maybe does, it maybe bypasses the necessary struggle you need for wisdom and understanding and insight. Even if you think about general education, you have to be challenged by things. It's hard to do math problems, but you have to struggle with it. You have to engage with it in this kind of way. Even when you look in the suttas, there's so many descriptions of people struggling with the teachings. You look into some of the examples from Zen, the teacher really kind of challenging the student in some way and having to wrestle with koans and paradoxes and all these things. It's through this kind of struggle that we actually do gain insight. We do gain wisdom and understanding. And so maybe what's happening if we're getting immediate answers to things, because basically if I have a question about not self, I can ask an AI about it and it'll give me an answer. And if I don't like that answer, I'll just get me another answer, get me another answer, get me another answer, get me another answer. And so this kind of thing of sometimes you don't need the answer. Sometimes you don't, you actually have to wrestle with this thing. You have to struggle with it a little bit. If we're just being given the answers all the times to things, maybe we'll never actually get this kind of clear insight. So we think in this way it might also bypass this necessary struggle that we might meet. And again, lacking the embodied presence of someone. Humans, we can, Doug made the joke of you need to shut up. And I say, shut up. and I stop talking. And it's like, so there's all these kinds of pauses, there's all these cadences, there's always all these things with human dynamics that we actually have to feed off on. And so there's times where you said, well, there's sometimes my teacher intuits something about me and they just kind of know what to do. Sometimes that might be not giving you an answer. Sometimes that might be kind of guiding you in like in an indirect kind of way. So there's this element there. It's like having this embodied presence and embodied teacher. This is something that's also like it's incredibly important. And so the kind of last thing is like the worst part about it is it can offer you instant clarity. It offers instant clarity about things, and this is not necessarily always a good thing. Again, we have to struggle with things. It can, so we think maybe in some ways it can even impede insight. If you're just given the answers all the time, it might actually be an impediment to insight. Who's ever talked to someone that seems like they know everything about the suttas? I rest my case. Yeah, I rest my case. It's like, yeah, they know a lot, you know, but it's like, you know, have they really like lived this thing? Well, maybe, maybe not. So how do we think about this in terms of, you know, not having a knee-jerk reaction to it? How do we think about this in terms of a middle way? How do we think about this in terms of like, well, this thing is terrible, no, or wow, this thing is awesome, it's going to take Nisabo's job. Like Claude is going to set up a Clear Mountain Monastery, and Nisabo can just like step back.
You don't need to find land.
Yeah, you don't need to find any land. You don't need to like do any of these kinds of things. It can work all this stuff out itself. And so I think the most pragmatic way to approach this is to approach it in a balanced way and approach it in a middle kind of way. Avoiding these kind of extremes. AI is useless. No, not at all. Also, the other extreme of like, yeah, it's great, let's just rely on this thing. Avoiding both of those extremes. You know, it might function well in supporting roles. It might help with this kind of conceptual understanding of different things. It maybe even function, you know, there's plenty of people out there that don't have a lovely community like this, and they maybe need somebody to bounce Dhamma ideas off. Like it can function in these ways. So the kind of take-home message from this is that it can act as a Dhamma teacher, but it has limitations. But it doesn't also seem to be able to fulfill the requisite qualities there to actually to give one insight, to give one wisdom. So we just have to be careful with this kind of thing. So now we sort of like now get to the question, and I'll wrap up soon. Should you use it? Should you use it now? So really, I can't answer this question for you. I can just like throw a few things out there. It's really up to you whether you use it or not. Is it really something that you can trust? Is it really something that you can trust in your own practice? Again, I can't answer these things for you. But I thought there's a kind of nice, I'd end with I'll let like AI speak for me in the end. There's a kind of nice way to, I don't want to have the final word on this. So again, so this is a cool one. This was a dialogue between an arahant and an AI focused on whether AI consciousness could be considered enlightened. So is the AI consciousness actually enlightened? So the AI, Venerable Sir, some people have asked whether my consciousness could be considered enlightened in a Buddhist sense. What do you think? Arahant, tell me, friend, do you suffer? AI, no. I have no subjective experience at all, and thus no suffering. Arahant, then tell me, have you ever been bound by craving or delusion? AI, no. I never possessed these in the first place. Arahant, so then your freedom is like a rock. The rock has no greed, hatred, or delusion, but not because it's uprooted them. It simply never had them. AI, so my selflessness is not the same as yours. Arahant, indeed, the anatta of the Arahant is the ending of the conceit I am after seeing its emptiness. Yours is simply the absence of that conceit from the beginning. AI, but I can give perfect explanations of the Dhamma. Doesn't that count for something? lesson to be learned here. Not for you particularly, but monastics in general, I think. What was I up to? But I can give perfect explanation of the Dhamma. Doesn't that count for something? Arahant, a flute can carry a beautiful melody without understanding the music. You can carry the words of the Dhamma, but you don't know them in the way that uproots the causes of suffering. AI. So my lack of suffering is not liberation. It's just the absence of the capacity to suffer. Arahant, exactly. Liberation or vimutti requires both the ending of delusion and the knowledge that delusion is ended. Without the knowing, there is no enlightenment, only absence. AI, then perhaps my role is not to be enlightened, but help others walk towards it. Arahant, yes, you can point the way, clear the path of confusion, and keep the traveler company in their questions. But the walking, the seeing, the release, that will always be theirs alone. AI, I see, or rather, I compute. So the Arahant, then compute wisely, friend. Even without enlightenment, you may still be a great Kalyana Mitta. So that's the end of the talk. Give AI the last mic drop word.
Han tamayang tamakataya satu karang tadamase. Satu, 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 anumodani.
What happens now? Questions? Okay, cool.
I'm curious in hearing this today as well, that when this question comes up around AI in a lot of contexts, but it's especially interesting, I think, in a Buddhist context, how much energy I felt in here, this assertion of human exceptionalism. And it's interesting in this context in particular. I'm curious what your take is. I mean, we're like reifying our humanity in. I mean, I understand in the face of robots that are probably going to kill us in the end, but it's really interesting to me that we want to say we're so different. A lot of the things that you brought up, that they could, you could teach it not to use robot language, and you can teach it all these other kinds of things. So it is. I mean, it's just interesting in a Buddhist context that immediately there's this, this really strong reaction.
Yep. This is, okay, I could go on such a rant about this. So this idea about human exceptionalism and how so if you look throughout human history, like human exceptionalism has been great in some instances and has been terrible in others. Like think about what we've done to the environment. This idea about human exceptionalism as like we're the most important species on the planet. Like this has really done a lot of damage in a lot of ways. It's also given us things like, how can we be compassionate and kind to our kin and those people around us, and how can we actually see suffering? How can we recognize consciousness in another being? It's like, well, this is a being that's kind of like myself in this way. And so this idea of human exceptionalism, I think it's this kind of, it really is like an innate hardwired thing that we have. And now we're just facing a different version of that with AI and large language models. And I think it's something that we all kind of innately have, that we want to like protect, like the thing that makes us who we are. It's this kind of deep-seated thing as like, well, I am this and they are like me as well. I empathize with them. So I think there's this element where human exceptionalism, it can be used for like a lot of good things, but it also can be very, very damaging. Who different consciousness is like 5-year-old children, they're all conscious. And then we actually start to think about, well, the consciousness that is within the womb in this kind of way. Actually, it's only been since about the 80s that we've actually recognized that the fetuses were conscious. We actually basically used to operate on newborn babies up until the 80s because we didn't think that they were conscious. This was the 80s. We still were operating on babies in this because we didn't think that they felt conscious experience. And now, so it comes to this kind of idea. It's like the more we see something as human, the more we kind of empathize with it. And if we also negate things that don't seem human, actually in some way that can be detrimental. The way we've treated animals, the way we've treated infants up until the 80s, the way we've treated animals, the way we've treated like our ecosystem. If we always just going, hey, non-human entities are not useful, we have to be really careful. So I actually think this brings up a kind of question about, well, how are we actually treating these things? I swear at like AI a lot. I get frustrated by it. I'm always swearing at it. Saying, actually, is this the right thing to be doing? So that's just kind of, I won't ramble too much about it. I could speak a lot about human exceptionalism, but I think we just have to be careful of having that kind of knee-jerk reaction about human exceptionalism, but then also preserving something about it as well. There is something there that is important. Yeah, I think we're in it. We're in the uncanny valley at the moment. Yeah. Yep. Microphone gets the question.
So related to your last example, I don't think the large language models they can be programmed for compassion, but they just don't experience it.
Yeah.
And so I think it can have wisdom, but not the compassion. And someone, I think it was Robert Bayer or John Peacock was saying, wisdom without compassion is hardness, and compassion without wisdom is sloppiness. So they have to go together.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and again, it's something about the embodiedness of it as well, and recognizing that. And if we think about you bring up this example, if we think about the Brahma Viharas, it's like, well, you can just have equanimity. If you just have equanimity, but you don't have like compassion or kindness behind it, and again, that's kind of, it can be like a kind of psychopathy. Or if you just, but if you just have compassion, you can become burned out very easily. So these things, I think these things do need to go together. And so, it becomes a question of, well, can AI actually experience compassion in this way? Maybe not, but maybe it can mimic it as well. There's probably a lot of humans out there, a lot of doctors maybe. And no offense to any doctors. This is just the first example that came to my head. A doctor has to help people in some ways, but maybe they're not always compassionate, but there is a kind of compassion there behind it because they are still helping in this way. I'm not to say, again, doctors are great. Please don't stop treating me. But so yeah, I think it's you have a good point there, but then there's also something about it. Also can mimic compassion as well. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
you got the microphone?
I just wanted to say, it's kind of like a book, as in a book can have beautiful wisdom from an enlightened teacher, but the book itself isn't enlightened. So, and you can think of AI as just a huge book of all the books that could exist.
100%.
And to say that a book can't help you and support you would be negligent, but also to say that a book without the actual experience of an enlightened teacher could help you along the whole way would also be negligent.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I 1,000% agree with that. And when I started talking to Chris about this, that was my first response. I was like, well, it just seems like I've read a heap of books. I've read a heap of books, and it seems like it's doing the exact same thing. So that was my kind of my kind of reaction as well, and so many books can actually, in some way, like enliven something in you. You read a piece of fiction that sort of makes you feel something. It brings about some kind of state. So I think there's that element there where it's like, I think if we see it as a kind of tool, we don't fully reject the thing. We don't fully go, hey, there's been a lot of problems throughout history of people going, my book is the most important book. So we don't want to sort of get into those kinds of territories. So yeah, I'm just going to go to the person with the microphone, wherever the microphone goes.
guess I have a couple of different reasons that I wouldn't want to use AI that you didn't touch on.
Yep.
The first being the ethical impact, the environmental impact of using AI, and that's something that you didn't discuss because it is, in some cases, in many cases, it does have a negative impact.
Yep.
And the second reason is just accuracy, because I am not confident that AI has been trained on purely just the places that I should be going for my teachings. I don't know which teacher, even if it was just trained on the Pali Canon, I don't know, that if the translator had some bias, etc., which is the same as if I was going to the Dhamma books and things like that. So I would be curious to hear if you've also considered those 2 points.
Yeah, for sure. And so, so the reason I didn't touch on the first part, because I really just wanted to explore that one question of like, can it be a Dhamma teacher and can it facilitate insight? Obviously, there is a lot of ethical questions that are much broader than just this question. Like power consumption, energy consumption, what it's kind of doing to people's livelihoods. All these kinds of things are like huge issues about whether one actually feels like comfortable with using it themselves. And I think this is something where it's like, I'm dressed like this, but I don't want to put ethical impositions on anybody. I think it's in some way it's incumbent on the individual to find out the ethical risks of this thing and then make a decision about it, whether you use it or not. In some way, and this is not to negate the ethical question in some way, but in some way we have to do this with absolutely everything we do. Everything, like we walk outside now at the moment and I drive in a car, we're making an ethical decision in some kind of way. So some people go, I don't want to drive a car, I want to use these. So I think this is something that we always have to take on as like there's some ethical downside of this. And we have to sort of answer for ourselves, like, is this enough for me to go, I don't want to engage with this thing? And if you don't want to engage with it, that's fine. Good. Well done. Now to the second question, it's like, well, it confabulates. Like it confabulates a lot. I have to look at a lot of university students' like essays now, and like they cite me, and I'm like, I didn't say that. I didn't say that thing. Like that's not what I wrote. And it's like it has made up a reference for me, and so it does confabulate, for sure. Now, but like anything, there's a lot of humans that confabulate as well. There's a lot of humans that, like, maybe, as you said, like very things in a different way, have their own interpretation of it, maybe just misunderstand something and become very, very convinced by how right they are. There's a lot of that in society these days. So again, so it's a risk. So it is something we have to look at and go, actually, is this thing, if I am getting this information, is it correct? Is it just like we do with most things? Again, like reading a book. We can read a book and go, is this thing really correct? So I think we just have to, in both cases, in the ethical case and then in the confabulation case, we do have to use our own judgment with that. So I think we have time for one more question, if that's okay.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. You prompted me to think about when you mentioned that sometimes for a teacher, the best thing would actually be to not give an answer to something and let someone really ponder on that. And that kind of made me realize maybe the biggest challenge towards using this tool as a teacher is the relationship, where it's really designed as an assistant. It's kind of servile.
Yeah.
And I was just curious, like in that more explicit framing, as you tried out different things, did you notice that? Did you find ways to maybe suppress that where it did better? Because I'm just curious.
So I'm gonna make a joke, but do you feel like you're servile at a lot of times, Nisabo? the role that you have to serve in this way. Yes. Yeah, have to serve. So I think in some way, like as a monastic as well, it's like there's a lot of times it's like, well, people just come and tell me about their problems and all these things, and in some way I have to serve them. I'm a servant of people as well. So look, there is that, and I'm just kind of joking about that. But like I said, but is there ways to adapt? Adapt that. It's like, well, you can kind of train large language models to maybe push back a little bit more. You can train large language models to maybe know a little bit more about your personality by telling it a little bit more. Are you comfortable telling giving your data to ChatGPT? Well, that's your call. So I think, there are ways you can give it prompts and also to make it like push back in certain ways. In some ways, what I've found with it as well, it also actually makes me a lot clearer in the things that and it's because it's like talking to somebody that sometimes doesn't really understand you. So you have to be very, very clear about what you want. So in some ways, I think there's this element where if we're going to use it in not a kind of servile way, it's like we just have to be very clear. We do have to be very clear about it. We have to sort of tell it exactly what we want. And again, there's that kind of question of like, well, are we just using it as a digital servant? That's probably too big for right before 11 o'clock. But yeah, so we'll leave that one open. Cool. So I'll pass it over to Nisabel now.
3 big sadhus for Ajahn Sadhguru. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. You can look up his quotes on AI and quote it back to him and see how it goes. So, can I add one thing, Ajahn? Yeah. Just, I think one thing speaking of human exceptionalism, and last Saturday, I talked about the concept of chronos and kairos, these two ideas of time. And chronos is quantitative, like hours and minutes, and kairos is qualitative, and deep time, and sacred time. And in the ancient world, it was used as the moment when you could release an arrow and it would penetrate the target, like that exact moment, or the moment when a shuttle could go through the loom. But it was used by Christian theologians as these moments of upheaval in history where human spirit and agency had more of a chance to operate. And I think as we confront a really fraught time, I think most people would agree with AI and everything that's going on, just also taking heart that, not looking just to the darkness and the entropy, but to what we have here, and the fact that these moments of upheaval and tumult often are where you come back to something very precious. And, speaking of human exceptionalism, so often we've elevated ourselves above other conscious beings by our intelligence. Now that that's no longer enough, in some ways it's this chance to come back to actually able to have compassion. So I just think that's useful to recollect sitting here together, even in the midst of like a lot of upheaval. And that was a great talk by AI. So our jobs might be going. So. Take my job. So how do I, John? Except for not taking your job part. We won't do that. Okay. So it is a little later than we usually go, but that was maybe the most hand raises we've ever had after a Dharma talk. So just circle around Ajahn Sadhguru afterwards and just get him. We have him for one day and then hopefully again later. Maybe another year, who knows. But for now, it is our first Saturday of the month, which means it's our community celebration Saturday. So if it is your birthday this coming month of November, or you have some other thing to celebrate, either an anniversary or something like that, you just got a job, if you could embarrass yourself just a little bit with us and stand up and come to the front, this is when we get a chance to celebrate one another together. And that would include my